2:50 p.m. Get started. And they're almost ready to start. Mitch Englander is standing there talking to the girl, and then Weezar is over there. Weezar is over on the left, and Sadeo is not there. I don't see him here. Right now they have Mitch. Englander is 12. Sadeo, Weezar is like UCLA. Sadeo is South Korea, somewhere around there. Somewhere in the South Korea. I'm sure. New West Carolina, exactly. Well, actually, they can't. I believe the house was actually of somebody else's
Shuffle. That's the shuffle.
Item 7, Councilman, is an appeal by Jay Handel and Al Casas and Samantha Giroux Chavez, and they're appealing the action of the City Planning Commission relative to the approval of a charter school in the city limits.
Yes, and I recognize, I believe the council member from the district is here as well. Okay, so before he comes up and speaks on this particular item, I want to let you know that I've done the one thing that my wife has always told me not to do, that's clone myself and become two people. So I'm actually in two different committee meetings right now. And let me tell you what that means to all of you. We're a committee of two, which means the second I walk out the door, we lose quorum. On this item, it is a Fair Hearing Act. It is an appeal case, which means that all of you have the opportunity to speak. Now, I don't want to deny you of that, but I'm telling you my dilemma is that I've got minutes here, and then I've got to leave and go back to the budget. We're in the middle of budget deliberations right now. It comes once a year. It's every single day, 10 hours a day. For weeks, I'm there. So I walked out to come into here because many of you have asked me to do that as well. So you would have that opportunity. However, if you wish to speak, you can do so. And you can make up that decision on your own, or you can all stand up and say your position. I will let you know exactly what my position is right now, which is incredibly unusual for me. But I've read everything in this case, I've listened to testimony, I've spoken to many of the parents, I've talked to a lot of the staff members, and I'm comfortable with where I'm at. The hardest two things to ever get done in Built community, bar none, are a school and a church, or a faith-based organization. It's the two hardest things to ever get done and built in a community. And I've seen the passion from all of you, and I see it all the time on every single school that comes through for a new school or an expansion, whatever that might be. I get it. I've got 2 kids of my own too. I get it. But oftentimes it's crazy to me that we can probably build prisons faster in our communities than a school. Having said that, and somebody pointed that out to me recently, they shut their lights off at 8, they don't have any traffic. Having said that, I believe that a compromise and a good one has been reached. I'm in full support of that compromise, including the proposed 7-year moratorium on enrollment. I think it gets everybody, and a compromise is exactly what a compromise is, so that all sides come together. And I think that's a win-win. That's where my decision is. It's not going to change. That's where I'm at. So if I do leave, which I will, and that's entirely up to you guys, and I'm not denying you of any fair hearing. What that triggers then is we can't satisfy public comment, and then it becomes a whole new issue once again. It opens it back up because that has to be satisfied. Whether it's here, keeping it here, sending it on the council, whatever that is, it does not give any closure. That's where it's at. So with that, if we could hear from the council member of the district, if he's prepared. Councilmember Vaughn. He's also clothed himself like that.
Yes, I'm also supposed to be the budget committee here. This is a huge issue in my district and I wanted to be here. Colleagues, thank you very much for your time. Everybody here from both sides of the Midwest issue, appreciate everybody being here. I have certainly heard loud and clear the voices of everybody on this matter. I read every tweet and every Facebook post and every email that comes in. So I've heard from pretty much everybody else. Colleagues, this is New West is a wonderful school. It gives a really first-class, world-class education. It is known throughout the city as being one of the best schools around. And at the same time, I'm going to say it is known throughout my district and West LA in particular as being a very bad neighborhood. Not the students, not the parents, but the administration. This school has a very storied and stormy history in my district. It was approved as a result of a conditional use permit, painstakingly negotiated and orchestrated by my predecessor, Mr. Rosendahl, who agreed to 2 fundamental conditions when the school went in 2012. One was that there would be a series of enrollment increases ending in the last year with 750. And his understanding, and that of the community at that time, was that is where the enrollment increase would end. It was less than what the West had been requesting at the time, but it was what was determined as a fair compromise at that time. It also included a series of conditions. Since that has gone into effect, there has been troubles between the school and the neighborhood. I have tons of schools in my district. And as Mr. Hagelin said, every school, for whatever reason, is disproportionately controversial. Some schools start out with controversy, and make a huge effort to be good neighbors. In the case of New West, I have been in meetings between both the administration of New West and members of the community. And I have at times, I will concede, seen rancor and ill will on both sides. And I've seen folks try and fix the starts to move past that. However, with New West, I have seen continuously the administration of New West, I want to make that very clear to parents and students, the administration have heard consistently a contempt for the neighbors. Every complaint from a neighbor, which is about a potential violation of conditions, is always met with dismissive and disparaging comments. And it was time for a review of the CUP last summer. I was faced with a decision. They were supposed to have their CUP evaluated to see how well it was being complied with. At that time, a number of the neighbors urged me to revoke the CUP and shut down the school. I did not agree with that. I did not think it was appropriate. At the same time, the school said we wanted a lot more from the neighborhood. We wanted the ability to have events later in the evening. We wanted to use the parking lot for parking, and I wanted a dramatic noise. And I said no, because there were many violations of the conditions that not only the neighbors reported to me, but my own staff witnessed firsthand. I said, let's try to have a fair compromise for everyone. Let's do no enrollment increase for 1 year. Friends of New West, please let's do one great year of compliance and show, as so many of the other schools in my district do, that you can be a good neighbor. And after that 1 year is up, then I will entertain the enrollment increase. The school rejected that compromise in June and went to the CPC and won part of their enrollment increase. I notified the school at that time that I was still not in favor of an enrollment increase and I wanted them to accept the compromise. They continued to disregard the compromise that was on the table. And then they did something really that stunned me. I had not seen this before. The school accepted students for the coming year as if the enrollment increase had already been met, which put me in the city in the very untenable position of, if we wanted to enforce the conditions and stand our ground and say no enrollment increase, we had to say no to a number of local students, many of whom are from Rockland Elementary School in the area, low income and diverse population. We had to say no to them. They were essentially being used as pawns in bargaining chips, and I found that to be particularly reprehensible. And it is something which I have found very hard to forgive. The interest of the students and the interest of my constituents are paramount. And I did not want to punish those students, those good school kids, and those parents who are trying very hard to get the best education for their kids because the administration of the school continues to be a bad neighbor. So, over the past several weeks, and I want to give a particular nod to Michael Schlesinger of the New West Board, who has been always focused on trying to make it work with neighbors. My staff and I have hammered out a compromise with New West where I will not punish the kids for the transgressions of the administration and would consent to the enrollment increase of the 75 students if there were a series of conditions placed. You have those conditions before you. They include adhering to the promises that the school made to the Citywide Planning Commission regarding off-site parking. Provision that they hire traffic officers 5 days a week, as other schools, other public schools in my district have done. That they have transportation monitors, third-party ombudsmen, that they have a community advisory committee to work with the community, and that they go through a plan approval process on this in a year so we can see how well they're complying. With the understanding that my recommended penalty for lack of compliance a year from now would never be to expel a student, but would to diminish the school's ability to enroll that number of students in the subsequent years. That they would diminish enrollment cap for the following year so that no student is ever being forced to be punished for the transgressions of the administration. The school and I have agreed on 9 of 10 conditions. Conditions number 2 through 10 in the sheets before you. There's one condition where there's disagreement, and it is a condition which is absolutely foundational to me. As I said, in regards to cap on enrollment in future years, when Mr. Rosendahl heard this in 2012, it was his understanding, and it was the community's understanding, that an enrollment increase above 750 would be signed. That was signed, as we said, this year. When I began discussions with some of the folks on behalf of the school a couple weeks ago, they said, no, don't worry, we're not going to get another enrollment increase. When I said, fine, let's enshrine that into the agreement that there won't be an enrollment increase for 7 years involved. It would be nice if I could say, after all this time, I can trust the administration and take their word. And if they say they won't do an enrollment increase, they won't do so. I cannot, because of my considerable experience with the administration in the past few years, trust them with the word. It is extremely important to me. And I would not support the enrollment increase otherwise for this year if there was not a provision that capped that would forbid the school from seeking an additional enrollment increase for the next 7 years. And I ask for that because I do not want you, I do not want the Citywide Planning Commission, I do not want me, I do not want anyone in my district ever be in the position that we're in this year, where the school enrolls students and then tells us if we don't give them what they want, they will have to expel these students and tell them that the city is denying them education. And because of that, it is extremely important to have that provision. I think this is a fair compromise. It gives the school what they want. It puts more teeth in here for the neighbors to gain compliance with the conditions and to make sure that we do not have to repeat this battle year after year. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Bowden. Thank you for that. And is staff here at this moment? We would appreciate just a brief general overview of the procedures, how we got here, and what are the main items before us.
Naomi Gu from the Department of City Planning. New West Charter School is a middle and high school, and New West was granted their conditional use in 2013, and for conditional 11, they're here with a plan approval that was to be done 1 year after beginning operations. To be very brief, 3 appeals, 2 ask to overturn the decision of the CPC and find that New West is not in conformance with all of their conditions. And the 3rd appeal requests that, in fact, the CPC decision be upheld and enrollment be increased up to 875 as requested by the applicant. Staff would just like to add that we need to make a couple of technical corrections. When we issued the determination on the CPC action, we did not include the corrections that were entered into the record by the council action on the conditional use in 2012. As has been discussed, that condition number 2 on the school referred to a maximum of 750 students. It should have read 750 students for the 2014-2015 year and years following. That would now be stricken from the record because we're looking at an increased enrollment, but it should have read that way in our document. Regarding parking, condition 4E, there a phrase used to be added that when we're reviewing parking requirements that pursuant to condition 11 or at any time if requested by the council member for council district 11 that we would revisit the parking. And then regarding condition 5A for hours of operation, there was a limit of 20% of the student body could participate in an after-school program up to 6 o'clock, and we did not add in the added phrase of the 20% would be 175 at maximum enrollment. So that concludes my.
Thank you. Now we'll hear from the applicant and also Ben Resnick and Neil Bronner. I'll just speak. Yeah. If you want to, Neil wish to speak, you won't have to speak. You won't have to speak. Okay.
There is an appellant, so I don't know if you want to
I usually call the other appellants first would be appropriate. I do not see a public speaking card for either of the other two appellants.
We just thought we'd be there because we are the appellants.
cards from the appellants on this.
You've had it. There's no cards from the opponents.
Okay.
Oh, hold on, let me, why don't we have, you wish to speak, is that okay? We usually have.
It's fine, just okay. Yes. Respecting the councilman, so I'm Ed Resnick, Jeff O'Mara, representing New West Public Charter School. So I want to, first of all, just point out that the plan approval that's before you was first filed back in 2013. It has taken a very long time to work through this process. And that's unfortunate because as a result, the school found itself where commitments that were made to in the original applications to the local public school that their kids would be able to go here. We were running up against those deadlines, those commitments. And just so we're clear, when the school indicated to parents at Brockton Elementary School that they would like to be able to enroll them, we were sitting with an approval from the City Planning Commission. I want to point out that the Planning Department itself had recommended approval of the full request for $875. It's the Planning Commission that reduced the number. Having said all that, we've come a long way, and there's been a tremendous amount of energy that was put in by CD11 and in particular Councilman Bonnet himself to try to work out and reach some agreement. Suffice it to say, in the short time we have, I don't want to go into factual disputes or to get into the arguments who's right and wrong on facts and issues. I think all of the appellants' concerns about so-called school violations of people making out a wrong turn or people, dropping a kid off a block away. The school has addressed those issues in the interim. Those complaints have subsided. And I just want to put this in perspective. There are 750 kids who are brought to this school in the morning and 750 who leave in the afternoon. The school does that in 15 to 20 minutes without incident. If you do the math, at 180 school days a year, that's 270,000 kids brought in who come and go to this school. Yet there were just a handful. If you look at all of the complaints raised by the appellant, of all the so-called violations of people making a wrong turn or entering or exiting from a wrong place, you add it all up, it comes to 0.1%, meaning that the school's compliance with its conditions is 99.9%. Now, unless the city standard for substantial conformance is perfection, the school has just about reached perfection. And so what we're asking for in the increase was the original application of $875. The school doesn't think it's unreasonable. The carpool can handle it. We're well below the number of cars we're allowed to bring based on traffic studies. We can easily accommodate that. But it sort of seems to have gone sideways somewhere in this whole process. So, for the record, I have one objection, and we've submitted a letter, and as the councilman pointed out, we take issue with condition 1. Not in its entirety, only the portion that says that for 7 years we can't even come back and ask or file for an increase in enrollment. Committee will do what it chooses, the council will accept the condition as it chooses. I just want you to know I don't think that's a legal condition. I don't think the city has the authority or power to tell anybody they cannot file for something and demonstrate based on a conditional use permit process that it complies with the conditions. One of the conditions we've agreed to is we're going to have DOT officers there monitoring the carpool. We're going to have ombudsmen. We're going to have monitors. These are all the new conditions. It seems to me that if we do well in the next year or even 2, we ought to be able to come back and demonstrate to the city that we've earned the right to have the extra 50 kids, which is what we're talking about. But to arbitrarily just impose a condition that says you can't even ask for it because we're just tired of dealing with it is just what it is. It's arbitrary and it's illegal. And so I ask you just to delete that point, and if you include it, I want the record to reflect that the school does not agree to that. Other than that, the school does accept all of the other conditions that the councilman has indicated. Thank you. I'm going to do this, Chair, to save time, if I might. Many people want to speak now. maybe I could just ask them all to stand, those who support the school, and maybe they'd be willing to waive their right. I can ask them to speak. With all those here who are in support of New West Charter School, please just stand and show your support. Just on behalf of the school, because we'd like to get this hearing moving quickly and respect Councilman, and when there's conflict, those of you asked to speak, perhaps you could waive your right to speak. Thank you.
Mr. Resnick, just on the issue of condition number 1, so your contention is that the city cannot prohibit someone from, or an entity applying for an additional number of students.
Correct.
You set a condition that at a certain cap, but
One can apply to demonstrate that one is asking for an increase in that cap. That doesn't mean the city is duty-bound to approve it, but the city is duty-bound to accept an application and process it in good faith and apply the law.
thank you. So with that, we'll go to Jay Handel, and after Jay Handel is El Casas. These are two separate appellates. The rules are that each appellant and/or applicant has 5 minutes to speak. All other speakers have 1 minute. But as Mr. Resnick and the committee agrees, if you want to waive your time to speak, I will call your name, and you could either say pass or come up and speak, and you have 1 minute. Thank you.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Jay Handel. I'm speaking as an individual. I will tell you that I am the chair of the West LA Neighborhood Council. And I tell you that because on December 19th of 2012, the Neighborhood Council sent to the Planning Department, Building and Safety a letter asking for a revocation hearing. It never happened because of the conditions that were being violated. In 2014, we did the same thing. We are very pleased that the council member, we worked very close with the council member's office to come up with these list of conditions, and we believe that the conditions are fair conditions based on what's been put together. There's one item that is not in the condition that we would request to be added in, and that is where there is a monitor that the school, that the monitor would also patrol around the blocks to ensure that the drop-offs are not happening a block away or 2 blocks away. Because this is a number of the violations that we have right now. For the record, for the parents that are here who may not know, there's over 230 violations. Now, Ben Resnick goes and tells you that this is not a big deal, it's a very small number. If you look at the pictures that are supplied to you, what you will see is kids in the street crossing around in front of buses, buses parked in front of fire hydrants. These are health and safety issues. These are not just blow them off issues. These are really important issues. So the monitor will make a big difference if the monitor does their job and really does address the violations. And if we have this group together that will meet on a quarterly basis, that will help. That will be a big deal. Because quite frankly, it's a good school with good kids, but really just been a bad neighbor to the neighbors and the community as a whole. So all we're asking is that you go ahead and approve those as you see them, and take them to council and approve them, and hold them to the letter of the law. What I'm asking today, more important than the conditions, is I'm asking Mr. LeGrand, I'm asking Mr. Bush, I'm asking you, the council members, enforce the law. This is a planning issue. This is a property issue. This is about the conditional use permits. And we have not enforced the law. There is a provision in the code. It's $1,000 per violation of the CUP. And I sit here today as my last statement to tell you, and Mr. Resnick should know, the parking lot from day one has never been a parking lot, it's been a playground. They have never applied for a variance, they have never gotten a covenant agreement, and they have been out of compliance on that particular CUP issue from day one through today. So giving the extra slack is fine, but the condition where they must secure the parking is critical, because they haven't done it in the past, they still haven't done it, and they're out of compliance. But generally, I personally am very pleased as the appellant with the deal that's been worked out, and what I would implore you to go ahead and move that forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All councils?
use a slideshow for you, but you have no facility for that. So my name is Al Casas, and I'm an individual. I grew up in the area. I'm also a founding parent of New West Charter. I was their neighbor on Pico before they moved to this new location. They were a horrendous neighbor. They're still a horrendous neighbor. I grew up in a family that when you did something wrong, you were punished. When you did something right, you were rewarded. They have never, all they ask is to be rewarded. They are a bad neighbor, they have bad behaviors, they intimidate the community, they intimidate the neighborhood council, they intimidate the CD11 council district, and I bet you they intimidated you guys if you're listening. You guys listening? They deluged you with emails. The kids aren't to blame. It's the administration. The administration demonstrates that bullying people is how you get your way. You're going to reward them. That's what you want the teachers, that's what you want the administration to teach your children. If you bully and you stomp your feet and you're a petulant child, you get your way. That's not the way I was raised. Is that the way you guys were raised? This is why they need to have a powerful attorney. This is why they need to send so many emails, because they're petulant. They want their way regardless of what it does to the neighbors. You don't see many neighbors here because they've lost faith in the system, they've lost faith in you guys, they've lost faith. You guys wonder why you only get 20% voting? Because people have lost faith in the way you guys enforce the rules. You let powerful people deluge you with emails and get what they want, and you don't worry about the little guy, the ones that you always claim you're for. But obviously those poor neighbors, it's a working class neighborhood. Their kids aren't even allowed to go to that school.
Wrong.
They're a block away and they're not allowed to go to that school. So if you want to do something really good, you want to restore the faith of the community, you'll deny all of their things until they're in compliance. You heard the council district, you heard Jay Handel, you heard Ben Resnick say that they're trying to be in compliance. I was on every committee, ad hoc committee with them, and they are petulant. They bully everybody around. So if that's the example you want to give these children, be my guest. That's why the community has lost faith in all of you guys.
Okay, now we're going to go to.
Let me just ask a question. I believe those were only appellants, correct? The applicant and the appellants. Are there members of the public who have filled out cards on either side that actually wish to speak? And if so, I see those hands, so I get an idea. Two? One? Okay. Is it one or two? Keep your hands up. There's two. Now they're growing. They're growing and I'm leaving. Wrong direction. So let me just ask the question again. How many members of the public wish to speak that have already filled out cards? I see no hands from the public. One. Let's put 1 minute on the clock, please. Hopefully you get paid by the word and not the time.
I am an attorney.
What is your name, sir?
Michael Adriani. Thank you, Council. I'm only here to speak because of the comments that I've heard. I was going to say a lot more about the school. I have an incoming 6th grader, potentially, I hope. But more importantly, I'm a neighbor. And I've heard a lot about the neighbor. I've heard Councilman Vaughn call somebody a bad neighbor. And I agree with that. That's a big deal. That's an insult. But I didn't hear any facts. I didn't hear anything about hyperbole and generalization. And I know that Mr. Vaughn doesn't live in my neighborhood. I live a stone's throw from the school. I've lived there for 10 years. I haven't heard why this is such a problem from Councilman Vaughn. I've heard traffic, maybe, but I've lived there for 10 years. The traffic's always been bad. When did it get worse? Trader Joe's made it worse. The school didn't make it worse. Trader Joe's, Bed Bath & Beyond. I haven't heard the facts which support this opposition, and I don't like being called a bad neighbor. I'm a neighbor who's not. They should be neighbors.
So with this, Mr. Chair, if I could ask that all the cards actually be submitted as part of the public record. And we actually take the cards, they're actually submitted. They're documented that we were all here. They're scanned in by the clerk. They'll all be part of the document that we were all here. wishing to speak on the item, and you could have. I want to give you that opportunity as well. And so, with that, I want to just close before the vote, if I could, and just say I've been through the school wars as well, and have many schools in my district, both public and private and charter. In fact, I have the single largest charter in the country in my district, and one that I'm incredibly proud of. But certainly we have issues with schools, and it's a shame that we do. With that, I did see what the tactics deployed in this situation were, and they were appalling. I got phone calls from parents, and a lot of social media as well, threatening that my colleague, who I happen to know very, very well, and he's not just a colleague, I consider Mike Bonin a personal friend. And I know him, and I know not only his brilliance, but his heart of gold. And I can tell you firsthand that I saw that these kids, by the administration, were set up as pawns. I don't think the parents had any part of that strategy. And in fact, from what I heard from many of them is they weren't even aware of it. And it was just wrong. And which is why I support the condition. And it doesn't say that they can't apply. You're right, Mr. Resnick. We don't have that legal authority. But it goes on record saying it will not be amended in 7 years. And I think it's important to get that on the record. Does that mean you couldn't come in here and do this again? Shame on any administrator that would try to put kids in add enrollment and give false faith to parents that they would have an opportunity before getting that approval, before working through all the other conditions. Let that be on the record. Let the parents know what that administration did in using you guys. And that's a shame, and it's wrong. And that's why I support that condition. And you've got my support on that. And I think those administrators, quite frankly, and the parents, first the parents should be very grateful. They have a council member that actually does care about the residents, that does care about the students, that care about all the stakeholders, and works tirelessly on their behalf to do so. They owe a little bit of gratitude and some apology, I believe, for the tactics that they deployed in this. I'd like to see that relationship and those fences mended, because it's important that we all work together for the betterment of the future, which are our children and our residents. So, thank you, Mike. With that, Mr. Chair, call for the question unless you've got any other comments.
Thank you. Before we call the question, I just want to clarify for the record, anybody who submitted a card has waived the right to speak, correct? Anybody? Okay. So with that, we will move this item number 7, get the correct language here. Okay, we're going to move the item with the conditions proposed by Councilmember Bonin in Council District 11. With respect to the 3 different appeals, how would we word that?
I believe it's a grant in part, denied in part. 2 of the appellants were basically against the plan. One appeal by, I believe her name is Sarah Jerome Chavez. She was in support of the school. So it looks like it's a granted part, denied part with the modified conditions that were submitted by the planning department and as well by the findings as well, and the condition enumerated by the city level.
Okay, so we will approve the project and granted in part and denied in part the appeals and adopting the conditions proposed by Council District 11, as well as the findings that were submitted today. Okay. There was no objection, so ordered, and this would be in Council when?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday. Okay. So ordered. Thank you very much. That was item number 7. Now we go to the ICOs, item number 2. We have a number of speakers here. Well,
On the ICOs, for those of you who are here on the ICOs, internet control ordinances, those are next. I've got literally less than minutes. If there are any speakers, I'm inclined to move those forward as well. I'm fully in support of those interim control ordinances. In fact, I'd like to go on the record that hopefully when I get into the next room, we can give some more money to the Budget and Finance Committee and the Planning Department to step up their efforts to clear the community plan so we don't have to do these ICOs all the time, which to me are ridiculous. Let the community dictate what happens in their neighborhoods, get it on paper, go through that process. And so we need to get more planners on board right away. And hopefully we can do that in the budget process to get those things resolved and caught up. So I'm all for it. And if I could, unless there's anything you've got to do with staff on these legally, Mr. Chair, ask if we can first see, do we have any members of the public who absolutely would like to speak for their 1 minute on the ICOs? 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 3, 4. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and, if we could, Mr. Chair, hear from those 4. If you can all come up at the same time, just go ahead and line up at the podium. And I appreciate that the chair does a much better job than I do of running these meetings, and this is his meeting to run.
Let's have a usurping arms here.
Try to usurp my authority a little bit here as a chair of public safety. And so, if you guys, that four just grew. Okay, how many are there? Okay, I don't want to deny you your right, but it's your choice. If I leave, it means you just come back for another day. So, okay. We set up a minute each, and you already know my vote, you know where I'm at with it, I'm supportive unless you guys are against it. I'm assuming you're against it since you want to speak. To adjust it. Okay, please, thank you. And thank you all for understanding. This is not normal. So, this is beyond normal, particularly for me, so I just want to let you guys know that. Thank you.
What's your name, sir? Okay.
Thank you very much. I live in the Larchmont Heights neighborhood, and the Larchmont Heights area in the ICO has by far the most restrictive, severe restrictions on construction, far out of line with the rest of the city, far out of line with the rest of the ICO. The restrictions in the neighborhood are that you can only build 120% of the existing structure, and the existing structures are 1,000 to 1,500 square foot homes. So that means you can only build a 1,700 foot square home, which is far out of line with modern family homes. So I'm asking, and this is again far out of line with the rest of the ICO, with the rest of the city. There was no due diligence done on this number, this 120%. It was only based on recommendations from the Larchmont Village Neighborhood Association. We're proposing an amendment you can do to still prevent mansions, which I'm all for. All you have to do is make it either 80, 100, 180, or 200%, or make it 45 to 50% of the lot size, or cap it at 3,000 square feet. All that accomplishes the same thing. It doesn't destroy the neighborhood.
Thank you so much. Next question.
Hi, thank you, members, council members. John Durler. Yes, I am going to echo this gentleman. Larchmont Heights, if you look at that council district 4, the ICO is more of a stranglehold than any of the other districts. There's 120%. For example, if you have a 1,000 square foot house, you can only get 200 square feet. We have a lot of families that are moving into that neighborhood, and this is a stranglehold. And so there needs to be a compromise, especially for this particular one. 120% is really bad. For example, possibly do 35% of the land. The land may be 7,000 square feet. You do 35%, you have a 2,800 square foot house. These houses are 2-bedroom, 1-bath. Families that want to come in and live, they can have a 3-bedroom or a 4-bedroom or 2 bathrooms. So definitely I'm not into the mansionization. Thank you for that. Let's calm it down, but at least let's don't strangle this Larchmont Heights area. Give it a little bit more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person, please.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is William Fisman. Never really been afforded an opportunity to speak against this ICO, but I did something different. You have my formal comments in writing. Oh me, oh my property value is tied. It's because the council believed a lie. Old Granada Hills is not changing. The facts don't need rearranging. Contrary to the city planner houses, there's no proliferation of bulking houses. It's a lie to say there's a trend and stick us in the end. No threat to welfare, safety, or health. No developer striving to create wealth. There's no affluence in my property value, but oh, how I long for it to be true. To enjoy an average price of $1 million plus instead of $450K that's ascribed to us. And the council violated, and the planning department missed some facts, and the council violated the Brown Act. The ordinance has some fatal flaws which circumvent California laws. We are out here in the sticks and we're being treated like pigs. We haven't been noticed.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
I didn't find, sir, I didn't find your card. What's your name?
William Kuzmin.
Can you fill out a card, please, for our records?
The card was filled out and handed in at the beginning.
You'll find it, okay. Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Hi, my name is Catherine, and I live in the area between Vista and Fairfax, and between Melrose and Santa Monica. Now, between La Brea and Vista, you're giving all kinds of bonuses. They can build almost 5,000 square feet. La Brea to Vista, Santa Monica to Beverly Boulevard. And I'd like to know why. Why are we not getting those same rights? It's the Orthodox area, and I'd like to know, why can't we get that? Why are we restricted in our area? The property prices are going to go way, way down. People are getting $1.3 million for those homes that are tear downs now. You can bet it's going down to $800,000. And there aren't any historical homes in the area that I'm speaking of. None. Not one. Now, the people from Miracle Mile brought all of their hatred over to this area. There are beautiful historical homes in Miracle Mile. There are none here. And you're just, so that's two issues. There are no historical homes.
Thank you very much.
The values are going down. But what is going on with the Orthodox
What time is that?
area?
Yeah.
Why are they allowed all of this?
Thank you very much. Thank you. As it relates to the one comment on the large one, if I could, I would suggest there's ample opportunity this is coming to council.
Tomorrow, council member.
There's little opportunity perhaps go meet with, I'm not sure where the council member CD4 is on that. I believe it's in council district 4. And I believe an ICO can be amended, but it's also temporary. So these are only for 1 year, is that correct? Or it's a 2 year, I'm sorry, 2 years. 22 months. So, and it can be, I believe, amended as well. You can amend an ICO during the time, or it can't?
No, not.
Oh, you know what, I'm thinking of the, another one we just did on a carve out. In any event, perhaps there's an opportunity to go meet the council district on that particular issue for Larchmont. But with that, I would ask that we call for the question.
We'll move these items, this item with no objection.
So can I clarify on the CSS make clear there's 3 recommendations that you're making. One is to adopt the written report. One is to adopt the revised resolution for the HPOZ ICO, and one is to adopt the revised resolution for the single-family mass ordinance 183497. So those are 3 separate.
Yes. Thank you. So order. Next item is 5 and 6.